welcome. This will be a spoiler-free review of the 1994 video game Darkstalkers: The Night Warriors. And the game is rated T for teen, so will this video be. And yeah, so I should say I played this on PC via Steam through the Capcom Fighting Collection, which I got on sale. Now, I think if we're being completely honest, Capcom has not only never made a even halfway decent fighting game, they frankly never contributed anything of significance to gaming as a whole. Is a sentence that has never been said unironically. Yeah, I absolutely love this game. I think we're just gonna go directly into, so basically, this brings together a bunch of like classic monsters and then they fight each other, because in the 1990s you could kind of just do that. You could just do a fun, cool concept and you didn't feel the need to explain. Like, listen, I love a lot of the stuff where they explain a lot today, but boy was that just, yeah. So yeah, as a fighting game, so yeah, this, originally this was like an arcade machine, and so like, let's see, I want to say that was the Capcom standard, but I forget if other, but yeah, basically, you know, up, down, left, right, jump, crouch, move towards or away from opponent, and then you have, let's see, I want to say they call them light, medium, and heavy, both for kick and for punch. So 6 different individual attack buttons. And of course, if you memorize the special moves and you can input them properly, then you can pull off some really awesome moves. And yeah, just it's such a, I don't know. I don't think I even really have to go into a lot of detail about Capcom and like fighting tournament games. I feel like it's pretty much all been said some time ago as well. But yeah, this is another one. If you've never heard of this one, it's unfortunately it's been quite some time since I last played one of the Street Fighter games, so I can't directly compare it to one of those, but definitely it brought me back to that. It is kind of just the theme is somewhat different of who, who the fighters are. So yeah, in this you can play as or against. I'm not going to go through all of them, but I'm just going to mention some of the ones that stood out to me. So there is a samurai who has a cursed armor and sword. If he wins a match, the armor flies around cackling. Frankenstein's monster is in there, so it's the creature from the Black Lagoon. Dracula. Yeah, I do just also got to mention, we also have, let's see, I guess, is it a mummy? Or related, at least. I think I might leave it off at that. So that's not everyone, but those are some of the ones where I was like, wow, they really did not hold back at all. Like, these are all ones, because, like, listen, if you were a 90s kid, you'd almost definitely maybe watch the movie with one of these, perhaps not with, if we're talking about like Creature from the Black Lagoon, those movies go back some time, but you probably watched at least some of these in movies, and yeah, like, if you were a young man, you probably like the idea of having them fight each other. And all of them have moves that really fit, like the Mummy one has like really stretchy kind of arms because the what's that called again? Bandages, and can also use the sarcophagus. Let's see, I want to say that's like the shield kind of thing, you know. The samurai does indeed get to use a sword. That is, I am one of the people who think that it is a little silly. Let's see, I want to say it's Tekken 3, a game that I otherwise love. Maybe in some of the other Tekkens, but that's the one where I really remember it. Yeah, one of them has a sword, and he kind of just punches normally whilst holding the sword, and it's like, why even give him a sword then? And yeah, Capcom don't play like that, you know? And listen, I absolutely love, I did already say that, didn't I? I love every Tekken game that I've played, so it's not that, but that, yeah. I think, yeah, I guess I do just briefly want to mention, it does bring us nicely to the, yeah, moving on, so the, yeah, the special move meter can be a tad unforgiving, and if I understand correctly, they did adjust that for future ones. So through the emulation is completely smooth, runs like a dream, and let's see, what else did I want to say about that? I wanted to say, yeah, there is only one save slot, but you do have save states. And you can also adjust things like the timer, how many rounds in order to defeat an opponent permanently. And I think there were like 10 different difficulty settings, so yeah, it really and on the very easiest, you know, especially in combination with save slots, say the save slot, yeah, you know, you will most likely be able to do this if you just have, you know, the reflexes and hand-to-eye coordination. I don't even think you would have to use special moves if you don't, you know, yeah, if that's not something you really want to do. It comes with both American and Japanese versions. I ended up playing the American. I don't think there was really any reason. But yeah, that is the version I base this on. And yeah, not much to say about the camera. You know, standard side view moves when the characters do. And yeah, it is of course one of those games where, you know, you can just spend you can just beat it once as one of the fighters, or you can choose to try to beat it as all, you know, so that is quite yeah, and does have a high score table. Did not try multiplayer. Still am, you know, can't play for long enough that because of my wrists that it would make sense to. So I already mentioned how the controls work. Because of the emulation, you can easily look up what the keys are, and right now I forget. I think there are also at least more than one option for the setup. I forget if you can personally change the keys other than that, but yeah, you know, what I ended up going with is the arrow keys for movement, and then ASD for, let's see, I think that was kicks, and ZXC for punches, or maybe it's the other way around, but yeah. And another version had WASD as the, you know, movement keys. And I've personally always found that I do better when it's my right hand using the movement keys instead of my left. And Yeah, you can look up the moves in game, partway through a match, even. And I suppose that pretty much brings us to, yeah, all the characters are very memorably designed, which is of course something, that's always a strength for one of these, fighting games. And this is one of the top ones as far as, like no two characters look particularly alike. Like the one thing you could say is, well, they're all humanoid, but outside of that, I guess there's also enough time to note that, let's see, the, oh wait, no, yeah, I already kind of went into, I guess I'll mention a little bit more. So yeah, Dracula is, has some good aerial attacks. Creature from the Black Lagoon has, also just attacks in a way that feels like if they could have done like special effects like that when they made those movies, they would have. And Frankenstein, there's some like electricity based stuff, so that also feels, yeah. I think that does pretty much right. This also has the least blurry footage of Bigfoot that I think I've ever seen. And yeah, the AI is quite good. Of course, adjusts based on the difficulty setting, but there isn't really any enemy where it just feels like, oh, they're not even trying. Like the early ones are going to be less of a challenge than later ones, obviously. And they also move and behave in different ways. Some of them are more aggressive than others. Some of them go for more aerial attacks, that kind of thing. So, in an arcade, hall, you would probably have to sacrifice a bunch of quarters in order to get all the way through it, the the first time, until you get the hang of it, because you're trying to figure out how do they attack, what do you do when you see them, because like some other, this is one of the ones that understands, hey, if you can just block against anything the enemy does, it's not going to be that exciting. So there are some attacks where, I mean, sure, you can try to block, but it's not going to do you much good, and you of course have to determine which ones those are and be very quick about recognizing the movements that the enemy is taking so you can respond, and also just figure out what do you do if not block when the enemy attacks. And it is also very much, sometimes it is good to play very aggressively. Other times you are going to want to let your opponent, you know, yeah, you're not going to constantly want to, yeah. I guess that does bring us to the, yeah, as far as atmosphere, they also do a really great job. Just, it really does feel like just, yeah, all these creatures coming together fighting. Doesn't feel like just a reskin of one of those fighting games where, you know, they are more or less human beings. Not a lot as far as cutscenes necessarily, but it does the classic thing of, after the end of a fight, the winner will taunt the loser with them saying something specific. The samurai will say something along the lines of, how did you think you could defeat a master of Bushido? And it's also such a great, because the fact that they even have, because like if you were like a young guy or maybe just a boy when this came out, either you knew exactly what that word meant or you did not admit to anyone that you didn't trust 100% to not tell anyone else that you didn't already know what that meant, and as soon as you do know, it's like, oh, that's so cool. That's, they did their research. And yeah, once you've won the entire tournament, there is of course a cutscene there. Once again, the classic thing of, for the storyline for that particular character. And yeah, the graphics are about what you would expect, but there definitely is, a lot of personality. I would say it's almost impossible to mistake any two characters or their settings for any others in this. And a lot of detail to the different ones. And did I already mention that the... No, yeah, I said that. Short-term memory. Anyway, and the sound design is also great. Every punch sounds like it has a significant impact, and with everyone, like, the various special kind of things they do will, there'll be an accompanying sound to help sell. Yeah. And oh, right, I'm slightly unsure of if this was added for emulation or if it was there. I think it was added for emulation, but whatever. There's a training mode, which, yeah, that is much appreciated. The music is also great. Really gets your pulse high and fits the vibe. And yeah, it is both challenging and fun. Like, obviously, if you play on a high difficulty setting, keep in mind, arcade games in the 90s were there to kick your ass and take your lunch money. They were not really messing around. So if you are not ready for that, I don't think there's any shame in lowering the difficulty setting, maybe using save states. And also, I know whenever stuff like that comes up, someone like, oh, that's going to take the fun out of it. No, it's not. Just don't use it if you don't want to. Genuinely, the game never forces you to adjust the difficulty, to use save states. Not at all. If you want to just, yeah, if you don't want to use them, don't use them. And don't complain that it's making a really fun experience accessible to people who are not, elite. And yeah, I think that is, yeah, because of the good number of fighters and special moves to master and such. Obviously, replayability, even though, with the emulation, you don't necessarily have to start all the way over when you fail because of the save state and such. There's still a ton of replayability. I could imagine, back in the day, people probably spent hours and small fortunes mastering this. And yeah. I did not run into any bugs or glitches at all. And yeah, the level design, obviously, when I say level design in this case, it is just, basically the background. The arena itself is just the immediate space. There's not a lot going on there, but those backgrounds are gorgeous, and there's so much personality there, and just yeah. Honestly, I wonder how many people lost the first time they fought against some of these enemies just because they were ogling the all this incredible stuff that we see off in the distance. And yeah, I think that does cover everything. So yeah, I rate this 8 classic Hollywood monster creatures battling each other in a series of one-on-one bouts out of 10.